Hello and welcome. My name is Chris Cam with Mining News and Mining Journal, and with me I have Matt Keane, Managing Director of Great Southern Mining. Great Southern is strategically well placed in the WA goldfields near Laverton and has a large ground position around the Mount Carlton mine in Queensland. Welcome, Matt.
Thanks very much, Chris.
Matt, how are you looking at 2023 with your budget? We've got potentially a rising gold price environment, we hope, but also some market volatility. How do you balance your spend, and where are you prioritising the money at the moment?
Yeah, I think it's a critical year. So it's going to be, I think, a year where the macro is really going to drive a lot of the equity interest. I mean, that's always the case, but I think it's going to be very much the case this year. I think we're going to have some real spikes along the way, but overall, I think it's going to be a good year for gold. So I think you've got to be active and engaged with your investors, but you've got to be on the ground drilling. So we're actually in a fortunate position, and I've joined the company last year in a very fortunate time where we've got some very advanced assets in our Duketon project, which you call our flagship project, where we've done that target generation. We know we've got high grade on at least 3 prospects, so we're ready to hit the ground running. So if it's a volatile year, you want to be a bit frugal, but you also want to show some results. Those assets, we don't need to put excessive amount of meters in the ground to get some real high impact results. This has been validated somewhat by, I was up there actually 2 weeks ago, it's been validated by our neighbour Regis, who have the majority of the Duketon belt where we are. And they've actually, looks like they're moving a little bit south and around us, and they're drilling on those same structures. So a little bit of secondhand validation that we're drilling the right areas. But look, we know they are anyway. We've seen the results. We've got a very advanced asset in Southern Star, which is open in every direction. Good high grade. I think it's one of the higher grade deposits in that belt. So we can move that forward, as well as targeting some other great areas such as Golden Boulder and Amy Clark, which hopefully yield that big multi-million ounce. But we'll see by the drill bit.
We've talked previously about the opportunities that maybe not at depth, but certainly undercover, and the additional costs that are associated with that. With investors looking for that big one, as you say, how are you funding that at the moment? And are you getting good investor buy-in for the idea that there will be some additional costs to make that breakthrough?
Yeah, that is a challenging one. My view is the Duketon belt hasn't had that real big 10 million ounce discovery yet. You've got Gardenwell, which is probably 3.5 million ounces to the north in Regis's ground. We've got just as much prospectivity, I feel, in our ground, but it's only shallow drilled. And that's probably an advantage we have, is that, something like our Golden Boulder prospect, most of the drilling's only to 40 meters, so we don't have to go deep. So I'm not doing that big expenditure. Over in Queensland, where we were chasing epithermals and porphyries, we may need to go deeper there. So perhaps we need to partner. But I think we're a little bit fortuitous on our flagship in that, it's relatively undrilled, amazingly, considering it's the West Australian Greenstone Belt. But, we've got the opportunity. We can make discovery, I think, without going to the centre of the earth.
And you touched on the fact that there has been a lot of activity in the area. There are a lot of players around the space, and it doesn't seem we go more than a week or so without getting some news about consolidation, whether it's St Barbara or Genesis or King West, etc. Where does Great Southern sit in amongst all that, and how do you find yourself strategically positioned to be part of that consolidation, or if you feel necessary, avoid it?
Yeah, you have to keep it in the back of your mind. The best return for shareholders can come via success by the drill bit or via M&A. I mean, that's a reality. I say we have the bottom portion of the Duketon belt. Regis control the north. Regis is transitioning from big open pits to underground and satellite mines, so getting feed is a little bit harder for them, so that may have some advantage to us. But we're also in an area where you've got some consolidation. You've got Bright Star recently merged with King's West, trying to accumulate some ground to the south of us and get a production story happening there. Of course, you've got the St Barbara story, so there's a lot happening. Look, ultimately, we'd love to find that multi-million ounce to be a go-it-alone story. The reality is, I think, inventory we find is going to find a place in one of many hungry mills around us to the north, to the south, and also to the west. So we've got to stick to our knitting, discover those ounces, build an inventory, create as much value as we can, and see what happens.
Matt Keane with Great Southern, thanks very much for your time.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Cheers, Chris.